All right, get ready for this because there is a truly mind-bending thread connecting three completely different religious traditions: Abrahamic prophecy, Islamic mysticism, and Hindu tantra. On the surface, I know these theological frameworks might seem worlds apart, but as we're about to see, they actually share a fascinating underlying current.
It's literally a question as old as humanity itself. How do you actually reach divine truth? For centuries, Orthodox priesthoods have established these incredibly strict rules, purity codes, and sacred texts just to manage our relationship with the divine. But what happens when those standard Orthodox rules start to feel insufficient? What happens when just reading the manual isn't enough to actually reach the divine?
Well, sometimes you just have to break all the rules. In today's Explainer, we're diving into the ultimate spiritual rebels. These are archetypal figures who threw away the rulebook entirely to find a raw, unmediated truth. They represent the mystic edge of their traditions, figures who exist right on the threshold, pointing toward a reality that simply cannot be contained by conventional boundaries.
There's a really stark contrast at play here. On one side, you've got the safe, orthodox way of managing religion, predictable, regulated, governed by very strict purity codes. But on the flip side, you have these radical threshold figures. They operate entirely outside those conventional laws. They aren't interested in the safe route. They are deeply experiential, completely bypassing the institutional middlemen to access something much, much more visceral.
Let's jump right into part 1, John the Baptist, the wilderness antinomian. You probably know the story, but think about what he actually did. John literally, physically removed himself from the epicenter of religious authority. In his day, that epicenter was the Second Temple in Jerusalem. But John didn't stay there to debate theology with the priests. He packed up and relocated to the wilderness. He essentially tore down the established, comfortable religious order to prepare the ground for a radical new spiritual reality.
And everything about this guy was completely unconventional. I mean, we're talking radical asceticism that absolutely shocked the sensibilities of his time. His choice of clothing, rough camel's hair, and his stark diet of literal locusts and wild honey weren't just eccentricities. They were a visceral, highly visible rejection of civilized priestly comforts. He was living on the absolute fringe of society.
But his true rebellion? That was ritualistic. Instead of relying on prescribed animal sacrifices administered by the priestly class in the temple for the forgiveness of sins, John offered something completely different. He offered a direct plunge into the raw waters of the Jordan River. It was immediate, it was visceral, and it required 0 priests and 0 temples. Just a direct connection.
Moving on to part 2, we have Al-Khidr, the Esoteric Rule-Breaker.
Meet Al-Khidr, which often translates to the Green One. He's immortal, deeply mysterious, and strongly associated with water and verdure. But what really makes him a threshold figure is his possession of something called ilm laduni, a deeply hidden esoteric knowledge that allows him to see far, far beyond the literal, material world. Now, his most famous appearance is in Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, where he actually acts as a teacher to Moses. But his teaching method, totally unconventional. Driven by this hidden knowledge, he performs a series of actions that completely subvert basic moral and religious law. He scuttles a perfectly good boat, he kills a young boy, and he rebuilds a wall for a village that was incredibly ungrateful and hostile to them. Moses, who represents conventional law here, is absolutely horrified by these acts.
But wait, there is actually a profound purpose to this madness. Khidr eventually reveals to Moses that every single one of these transgressive acts was actually ordered by God. They were done to prevent a much greater hidden evil, or to secure a greater hidden good. You see, Khidr represents hakika, the esoteric truth that lies beyond exoteric literalist Sharia law. He proves that the divine will can sometimes look like sheer madness or transgression to those who are only initiated into conventional rules.
All right, part 3, Uchishta Ganapati, the tantric transgressor.
So this is Uchishta Ganapati. He's the 8th of the 32 traditional forms of Ganesha, revered in tantric traditions as the Lord of blessed offerings and success. But this is a left-handed or Vamachara tantric form, meaning this tradition deliberately introduces the ultimate taboo to shock the mind out of its normal conditioning and into sudden, liberated enlightenment.
The whole taboo here revolves around that word, uchishta. In Orthodox Hinduism, uchishta refers to food that has been left over in the mouth, bitten, or touched by saliva. It is considered highly ritually impure. No way around it. Yet, shockingly, this specific form of Ganesha is worshipped precisely with this uchishta. The deity is even sometimes depicted intimately embracing his consort in a state of ritual impurity.
So why on earth would you worship with something impure? Well, in tantric philosophy, the ultimate goal is advaita, or non-dualism. The idea is that as long as a worshiper divides the world into pure or impure, or sacred and profane, they're trapped in illusion, maya. By deliberately offering the ultimate taboo to Ganesha, the practitioner shatters their own conditioning. They stop dividing the world and realize that the divine is equally present in absolutely all things, even the repulsive.
Which brings us to part 4, bypassing the middleman, the synthesis.
When you actually map these three out together, the pattern is just undeniable. You've got John the Baptist in Abrahamic prophecy, leaving the temple for the wilderness and river baptism. You've got Al-Khidr in Islamic mysticism, subverting moral law for esoteric truth. And you have Uchishta Ganapati in Hindu Tantra, embracing severe ritual impurity to completely shatter duality. Whether you go to the river, walk into the sea, or embrace the impure taboo, all three of these wildly different traditions arrive at the exact same conclusion. You have to bypass the orthodox middleman for a deeply experiential faith.
What really binds these three together is that they are totally raw and unmediated. These figures aren't for people who just want a safe, rule-bound religion. They're for the seeker who wants to toss out the safety manual entirely. They invite you to boldly step out of the comfortable sanctuary and directly touch the live wire of spirituality.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound challenge about our own pursuits honestly. No matter what it is you're trying to learn or experience in life. Are you settling for the safety manual, perfectly comfortable in the established rules? Or are you ready to step up to the threshold and touch the live wire? Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.